Okay, we are back live on this. Joining me right now, guy's been on this show many, many times and been on with me many times over the decades. It's always great to visit with him. A legend in the world of British metal, lead singer of Saxon, Biff Byford joins us right now. Biff, how are you, man?
I'm good, thanks. Very good. Just played 2 big shows in England. First shows in a couple of years, so that's really good.
How did that feel? Because I know that you were, you know, like a lot of places in the world, England was quite locked down for a long time. What's the vibe like there now, Biff? Are you able to have full capacity? Is it back to where it was?
Yeah, we did about 9,000 people in 2 shows. Saturday night was Hammersmith Odeon, the legendary Hammersmith. So yeah, it was pretty good. People had held on to their tickets for 2 years because we postponed back in 2019. So it was absolutely incredible. People kept their tickets for over 2 years, and and then just came to see us over the weekend, which was like absolutely brilliantly loyal. I mean, you can't ask for more loyal fans than that to keep hold of a ticket for 2 years.
And I know that I'd seen some stuff on the news here in the U.S. that basically the U.K. was pretty much, or at least England was pretty much lifting all restrictions and moving forward on back to 100% the way things were pre-pandemic. Mm-hmm. Was that the vibe in the room? Is that how things are, or did it feel differently?
The restrictions lifted on Thursday, and our show was Friday and Saturday. So yeah, it was great. It was just like old times. I mean, if people want to go on our Facebook site, I videoed the audience on both gigs so they can have a look. They can have a look at a big rock audience in England over the weekend. Yeah.
What a way to celebrate the end of lockdowns and go see Saxon and blow off some steam. That must have been awesome. You know, you mentioned Hammersmith Odeon, a legendary venue, even here in the U.S. Everybody has heard of Hammersmith Odeon, whether it be records that were recorded there or what have you. What makes that venue so special, Biff, for people in America that have never been there?
Well, I think because so many live albums were done there, from not just rock bands, but Bowie was there, and all the big bands of the day, in the 70s were there. I saw some big acts there in the 70s. So yeah, it's just a big sort of indoor venue, smack in the middle of London, really. So it's a great venue, and it's still there, obviously.
As somebody like yourself who's toured the world for well over 40 years at this point, can you give me a few other venues for you around the globe that are special or have a special vibe when you get ready to play them?
Yeah, we used to play I can't remember the theatre we used to play in New York. We played there a couple
Palladium?
of times. Was it Paramount?
Well, the Paramount's on Long Island. That's relatively new. The Palladium was...
there was a theatre there.
The Palladium in New York City?
Yeah, probably, yeah. And we used to play Santa Monica Civic over there in California. That was a big one for us. San Antonio, we used to play the big stadium there. So yeah, there's a few places we've had some great gigs in the House of Blues around as well. The one in LA, the one in Chicago. So yeah, I mean we've had we did some great gigs. The Lemurs were big gigs of ours.
Oh yeah.
I mean, us and Iron Maiden used to play Lemurs quite a lot. So yeah, great.
I grew up going to Lemurs as a kid, and later on even worked for the guys that owned it. And when I tell people about Lemur and the legend of Lemur, they can't believe it. I used to tell them, like, the bands used to go on, the headliner would go on at like 1:30 in the morning there.
Right.
It's just,
we used to
and you're lucky.
Sometimes we'd do one, I think we'd do one Lemurs at sort of, at 11 o'clock, and then we'd do another Lemurs at 1:30. It was crazy times. And they'd be like absolutely rammed, these gigs would be absolutely full to the brim. So crazy times, really. I mean, back in the 80s, it was absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I saw you guys there. It's all a blur, but I'm sure I saw you there on probably Denim and Leather or whatever. As a kid living in New Jersey, I would drive over the bridge, and then I would get home at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And, I was young. I was just starting to drive, and my mom, I was living at home at the time, and my mom would just like blast into my bedroom at 4 o'clock. She's like, "What could you have been doing till this hour?" And I was like, I was actually just seeing Saxon, Mom, and she wouldn't believe it because she's like, what kind of place does a band go on that late? But that's how it was then. It was crazy. And then, of course, you'd hope.
Really. And Whiskey a Go-Go, that was a big one. You know.
Yeah, well, that's still there, yeah.
That's where the famous, when Metallica first played with us on their second show ever. That's, that was a famous haunt. We used to play there and then go to the Rainbow Rooms after, so it was all happening.
Metallica opened for you on their second ever show?
Yeah, at the Whiskey. We did 2 shows. We did 4 shows actually in 2 days. We did a show in the afternoon for the under 21s, and then we did one in the evening for the 21s. And Metallica supported on the first 2 shows, and then on the second night, I think it was Rat that did the 2 shows with us. So it was pretty much who's who of the sort of West Coast bands at that venue that night. Ozzy came to see us with Sharon, shortly after Randy died, and Motley Crue were there hanging out. It was crazy, It was crazy times, really.
Do you remember? Did you watch Metallica that night? Do you remember seeing them, Biff?
I think I saw them from the top of the steps. Yeah, I remember thinking, great, a new band, young band, basically.
Yeah, I was wondering what you would have thought of them because I was actually exposed to them super early. I have the ticket stub. I saw Metallica open for, in New York, the Rods and Vandenberg. That was the bill, and Metallica was third billed on that. So I saw them super early on, probably not far after that. And then I played them. I was one of the first to play them on the radio when the first record came out. And I've told people all the time because they ask me, well, what was it like? What was your takeaway? I said I'd be lying if I told you I thought I was hearing the future, hearing this band that was going to be this huge worldwide thing. I didn't know what to make of it because I had never heard music that, like, to me at that time, Saxon was among some of the heaviest stuff that I had heard. So when I was hearing Metallica early on, I didn't know what to make of it early on. I wasn't sure how to process it.
Well, bands like Saxon influenced Metallica quite a lot with that sort of fast music. So I suppose they took that style and turned it into their own, really. So I suppose what you were hearing was a unique sort of new sort of metal sound that they were making, which sort of grew and grew into something really special, obviously.
I want to talk to you about your new record, but one more thing about the past. Saxon was aligned with another thing we hear a lot when we read books and stuff here in the U.S., this movement called the New Wave of British Heavy Metal, which was late 70s, early 80s, and all these British bands coming out in England at the time. As a band like Saxon that was very much at the forefront of it, can you give us some insights on what it felt like at that time in England? Is the importance of that movement over exaggerated, under exaggerated, or where does it really land? What was the reality?
Especially for Americans, I think a lot of American musicians, locked on to what was happening in sort of Britain and the UK in 1980, definitely, because in 78. 77, 78, 79, Judas Priest were coming along really strong. Motorhead were there. David had got Whitesnake together. That was happening. So by the time us and Maiden had our albums out, the movement was already strong. And I suppose for that generation, Saxon, Maiden, Leopard were the 3 big bands of that era. That 1980 period, and it was a fantastic time actually because that music went around the world. We came to America. We toured with Rush. We went to Japan and headlined there. We went to Europe with Judas Priest in 1980. That was our first tour. We toured England. Our first tour was with Motorhead in 1979. So all those bands were happening and playing small shows, big shows. Every show we did festivals. The first big Monsters of Rock Castle Donington Festival in 1980. It was actually a big melting pot of fantastic music and fantastic bands. So
that's another thing.
It was a great time, and I think people, especially America and Japan, actually, outside Europe, really locked onto it big time.
You were on that first Monsters of Rock Donington show in 1980, right?
We were, yeah.
Because there was a record. I had as a kid. I had that record with Rainbow. I remember Rainbow headlined. I still probably have the record somewhere. What was that like? Because of course, for people that don't know, Monsters of Rock in 1980 in Donington, England, was a major festival, which is now morphed into what's commonly known as Download. They call it the Download Festival, but that's the roots of it, going all the way back. But what was that very, very first one like, Biff, back in 1980?
Well, it was the first big festival of those bands. You know, I mean, there was sort of Rainbow, Priest, Scorpions, Saxon, April Wine, and I think Riot were on there.
Riot,
so we were like, we were sort of the new boys. You know, nobody ever heard of us when we went on there. So a lot of the audience knew us because we'd sold, you know, a couple 100,000 Wheels of Steel albums, but I think we were like the unknown, the underdogs on that festival, and it was great. You know, we played 30 minutes and went nuts, and you know, the album went straight into the charts and stayed there for 6 months. So you know, it was it was a great thing for us. You know.
Yeah, if I recall, because I have the vision of the front cover in my head right now. I believe there was the very first band on was a band called Touch, I believe. Touch. I think
it was Touch.
That was the first. Yeah.
April Wine, I think, and then
Riot
Saxon.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Then Scopes, and then Priest, and then Rainbow.
Yeah, it really was.
Bands played on, which you know, was all about that festival, really. Yeah,
and it really was one of the first real metal festivals, and this is now going back 42 years or so. Yeah. Among the and Saxon, to this day, you play a lot of festivals all over the world. Do you have some favorites among the festivals happening now?
Yeah, there's some big ones, you know. I mean, Download's always good. I mean, there's some big ones in Europe. We did one in summer here called Bloodstock, which is a smaller festival than Download, but it was a pretty good festival. But, you know, there's a big one in Sweden called Sweden Rock. There's a big one in Germany called Wacken Festival. There's a big one in Belgium called Grass Pop. So there's quite a lot of big festivals, you know, that actually a lot of American bands come and tour here on festivals all the time. So it's a good festival scene here. I mean, we don't play many festivals in America for some reason. I don't know. And we'd like to play more festivals in America. But we'll have to keep our fingers crossed on that. The new album will open it up for us, eh?
Well, you know, I've ranted about this quite a bit here because the problem, we have a lot of great rock festivals in America right now, but in a lot of ways they're super exclusionary to older metal acts and even the 80s hard rock acts. Most of them will not put those bands on. It's usually 90s, 2000s and forward, and they completely exclude an entire demographic, an entire history of music. I've talked about it many times. It irritates me. Some of the lineups come out and I can tell you what they're going to be without even looking at them. So for whatever reason, they don't give a seat at the table to hard rock and metal from the 80s. It's very unfortunate.
Well, somebody should do a festival. I'm sure it would be, you know, if it was in a main city, I'm sure it would be successful. It just need building up, don't they? You need a really big band to go and headline it, and then put a great bill on with it, really. But maybe Carpe Diem will put us on there. I don't know.
Well, let's talk about that. New album is called Carpe Diem. Is it out yet, or is it coming out soon? I have a copy of it now.
On February, which is Friday, I think, isn't it? I think it's Friday. So it's called Carpe Diem, which is seize the day in Latin. So quite a good motto for these times, I think.
Tell me about making this record. Did you do it during COVID? Was it done before COVID? How did it come together?
Yeah, some of it was done in COVID. The drums were done before COVID. We smashed the drums down. We actually rehearsed all the songs we'd written before the COVID thing hit. We put the drums down quite early, and COVID came along, up and down. So we did the little bits here and there whenever we could, really, just try and keep the energy levels up. And I wanted this. I sort of did the songwriting a bit different this time. I wanted everybody to write guitar riffs and sort of throw them in a basket, and then we pick out guitar riffs. I wanted riffs that excited me to write tunes and melodies around the guitar riff. So this album is very, very guitar riff orientated. Yeah,
I've listened to it and I really, really enjoy it. And I I'm wondering, were you able to all be in the same room when you made this record, or was this one where everybody sent stuff around and it got put together?
Well, we were in rooms together, but the guitarists were together with the producer doing that bit. I was here in my studio, and guitarists would come in and do guitar solos. But we rehearsed with Nigel, the drummer, before he recorded. So I suppose that was the only time we were together, really, in the initial stages of doing the drums. Yeah, but there's a lot of power on the album. Our priority was to keep the energy levels up and keep it positive.
Yeah. Now, the producer you mentioned is Andy Sneap, who does great work. He's produced some great stuff for you guys, for Accept, many others, and was in on second guitar in Priest, was out for about a week when Priest made the most head-scratching decision ever to play with a single guitar, which the metal world was outraged, and then they went back and picked it and said, "Oh, Andy, come back." Did you follow any of that?
Yeah, I was talking to Andy about it. Andy lives quite close to where I live, so we talk all the time. Yeah, he was like really disappointed, because he loves Priest. It's one of his, Andy's a child of the '80s, really, so he loved Priest. But he didn't take it too bad. He was just really disappointed. And then a week later, he was back in. It was like, yay!
Yeah, well, nobody was more disappointed than fans of metal and fans of Priest, because you can't take a band that's built on the entire career you're celebrating of two guitars and have one guitar. So, I mean, it's something that nobody...
I don't know. Maybe they've been drinking. I don't know. Maybe they're having a party in the room once and somebody said, "Hey, that doesn't sound bad with one guitar." And, sometimes these things are like that. One guy says one thing, another thing. I don't know. Maybe some engineer was in there saying, "Have you heard this?" I don't know, but... I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, I thought it was a little bit crazy when I heard it. I was like, really? It's like, that's crazy. It's a bit like Wishbone. Almost like, Thin Lizzy having one guitarist. It's now
or Saxon. So what is it about Andy Sneap that makes him a good producer for Saxon? Because he's done some great stuff. What do you look for out of a producer at this point in your career, Biff?
Well, he's done our last 5 albums, Andy. He's been in the team a long time.
Right.
So yeah, he makes Saxon sound like Saxon. It's as simple as that. He doesn't sort of do massive experimentations with our sound. He pretty much knows where we're at. And he probably does the same thing with Priest, I thought the last Priest album was great. One of their best ones. And, there are certain similarities to that album, to the albums that he does for Saxon. You can hear his sound in there. So, he makes it sound like Saxon, and that's all I can say, really. I mean, we trust him to do that. He doesn't really get too involved in the songwriting. But I do talk to him all the time, and we cross-reference ideas and things. So it's great working with him, really. He's a good guy. He's not slow either. He's very quick.
There's many great tracks on this record, but one that jumped out at me on first listen, that's one of my favorites, is called "The Pilgrimage." Can you tell me a little bit about that one and how it came together? Well,
The Pilgrimage, that was a band song. We wrote that together in the room. In the rehearsal room. I just like the word pilgrimage, and I just thought I'd sort of mess around with that word a bit and see if I could come up with some ideas about a pilgrimage. I mean, a lot of people think a pilgrimage is a religious thing that happened, 600-700 years ago in the Middle Ages. But actually, people go on pilgrimages all the time. People go and see, Jim Morrison's grave, or Hendrix, or Lemmy, or the pilgrimage, and go and see a battlefield in France where their fathers died or fought, or people go to festivals. It's a pilgrimage, Glastonbury or one of the big American festivals like Coachella. So it's a pilgrimage, and I just thought I'd write a song about it, and that's what it's about, really. It's about traveling to find something, that changes your life. That's what a pilgrimage is, really.
We mentioned COVID, and that, of course, is the backdrop for so many records that are coming out now, because a lot of them were made during it, like this record was, at least partially. there's a song on here, if I'm not mistaken, about that actually, and the folks we lost to that called "Remember the Fallen," correct?
That's right. Yeah, it was the last one I wrote actually, and I was a bit, should I do it? Should I not do it? Or should I sing it about something else? But I thought, yeah, let's do it. A lot of people died, and people lost a lot of friends or family, and a lot of the frontline people died early on in the pandemic because nobody knew what was happening. There was a lot of misinformation, and still is, and people are still dying. So I think remembering those people, I think it's okay for a metal band, to sing about that. So
well, and
on there, and I think people really like it. The video's out there, and we've had some great responses, from people who've lost family and friends, and really think it's great. We've written a song about it.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is Saxon, for people that don't really know the band and know the history, you've never been afraid to go into more topical current event sort of stuff. I mean, Dallas 1 p.m. comes to mind, one of my all-time favorite Saxon songs, what you wrote about there in the Kennedy assassination. So that's never been an area you've never had reservations about writing about things that have happened in history or even recent history in this case.
No, I don't think you have to be. I don't think you need to, to sort of get in people's faces and get aggressive with it. But I think these things happen, in our lives, in our history, and I think you shouldn't be scared. I think you should go and write a song about it, and put it into words. I think it's important to do that. I'm into history and what's happening to people's lives, and to put that into words for me is one of the greatest things that I do, really, apart from singing them. You know what I mean?
And Biff, how do you feel now? I mean, you're in your early 70s. I know that you recently said you've struggled with some hearing loss and issues with your hearing. How do you feel physically? How do you feel vocally? And how long do you think you can continue to front Saxon?
Well, my voice at the moment, as you'll hear on the album, because we've actually done another album since that album. We've done the Inspirations album, the cover album we did. So yeah, my voice is in pretty good condition at the moment. I mean, I was singing pretty good this weekend. So yeah, we'll just keep making albums, and it's not a thing that we can stop. You know what I mean? It's just what we do. We write songs and put out albums, and until we're not able to do that, then that's what we'll do. I mean, we like it. It's good fun. We have a great fan base that are really loyal, and I think, like for instance in America, I think our fan base is much larger now since we played with Priest and Motorhead, and we did some shows with the UFO. So I think the profile is much higher in America. The album sales are much better there now. So yeah, it's good. We just can't wait to come over and do some Carpe Diem, Seize the Day shows. That'd be great.
And you worked, when you talk about where your fan base is at here in America, I know for a fact you worked very hard at rebuilding that. You really did a number of years ago. We talked about that not only with the quality of the records you were putting out, but just in getting here more and touring more. You almost really had to build it up all over again, didn't you? We did, yeah, we did. And unfortunately, COVID came along. We did have big plans for the next 2 years in America, and the COVID came along, and obviously that sort of stopped those plans. So, yeah, I think America deserves us, and we deserve America. Our music is made for that type of audience. UK, Europe, America. We should be there more, and hopefully we can get this year. I don't know what it's like with the COVID in every sort of state in America. I think it's still pretty crazy over there, but whenever we can get over, then we'll come, definitely. We're absolutely chomping at the bit, as they say here in UK. Yeah, well, we're all over the map here. I mean, it depends. We're state by state, different scenarios in every state, but for the most part, I mean, shows are happening, tours are happening, some are being suspended or temporarily halted, but for the most part, everybody lands in a different place on it. Everybody's got a different view, a different opinion, but I'd say for the most part, things are happening,
Yeah, it's not nationwide. England very small. UK quite small. I mean, you've got Scotland that is slightly different. You've got Ireland slightly different, and you've got sort of Wales slightly different. But most of them are all coming out of lockdown now, and the restrictions are stopping. But there's a lot of people here have had COVID, and a lot of people have been vaccinated against it 3 times, and I think the herd immunity here is pretty strong. So it's a much smaller place than America, so I suppose it's a little bit easier here to get it under control.
One last thing I wanted to mention, in addition to Carpe Diem, which again, the new Saxon record comes out this Friday, and we're talking to Biff Byford about it, you did a record with your son under the name Heavy Water. Tell us a little bit about that for people who may not have caught that.
Well, people should check that out because it's great. It's not really a metal album. It's more hard rock, It's more like blues-based hard rock. But yeah, it's cool. There's some great sort of Sabbathy type riffs on there. We were just in lockdown. He was back at home again, spending some time with us, and he'd got a load of songs and things written, and had some ideas. I had some ideas, and we got together and just jammed. I play bass, as you know. We just jammed with a friend of ours who was a drummer, and it sounded great. So we said, let's make an album. So we put this album together, and it got fantastic reviews, really. It got absolutely brilliant reviews. People loved it because it wasn't Saxon, and it wasn't like his other band, Naked Six. It wasn't like punky rock, and it wasn't heavy metal. So good. We're actually making another one now, so that should be out at some point.
Yeah, some good stuff on there, and it surprised me when I saw that you played bass on it, because I didn't know that you played bass. And because in Saxon, to my knowledge, you've always just sang. You've never had an instrument on stage. But what do you play? A lot of bass and a lot of guitar, and just choose not to do it in Saxon?
Yeah, I do. I play guitar and bass, a little bit of keyboards and things. But yeah, I was a bass player before I was a singer, really. Me and Paul Quinn had a 3-piece band together. I played bass and sang, and Paul played guitar, and our mate drummed, and we were like a proggy sort of cream jammy band, we'd jam for hours. So it was pretty cool, actually. We were just jamming away, improvising on a theme, like you do in a sort of, early bluesy rock band,
Why in Saxon did you decide not to play an instrument on stage then?
Well, at one point when the band formed, we had 2 bass players, and I couldn't really sing the songs that we were writing playing bass really that well. So I stopped playing it, and the bass player that we had in Saxon took over really. But I always have a bass in the house. I've got a Rickenbacker 1974. So yeah, I still have it around, and I've got a few other vintage guitars. So if I have time, I'll play guitar. I like to play guitar. I like to write songs, really. So it's a good instrument to write rock songs on guitar. If you write things on a piano or keyboard, they're slightly different.
If you played some guitar live with Saxon, you could actually have a 3-guitar attack at one point. You could actually. I have
played guitar with Saxon.
Have you on stage?
Yeah, we have done that. I used to play acoustic guitar on stage way back, but I stopped doing it. We could easily play a 3-part harmony.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I don't think in all the decades I've been seeing you, I don't think I've ever seen you on stage with a guitar around your neck. So I thought that was interesting.
We used to back in the sort of I would say 90s. I was playing guitar on stage sometimes during the album called Solid Ball of Rock, actually.
Right. All right. Well, cool. Well, listen, man, it's always great to visit with you. Again, the new Saxon album, Carpe Diem, is out this coming Friday. Sounds great. Cool artwork as well. Real quickly, tell me about the artwork, because it's a fantastic painting there on the cover.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love artwork, and I spend a lot of time with a specific artist to get that. It's an oil painting, so it takes a while to build up all the different layers. And it's the same guy that did Crusader. So there's a slight connection with the scene, and I mean it's just like the album. I think it's a bit special, this album, because it came through a lot of adversity and struggle, and I think it's pretty unique, this album for Saxon. It's got a bit of a spirit of the 80s to it, this album, definitely.
Yeah, definitely a Crusader feel looking at the packaging, and I'm a sucker for packaging because I still love my CDs the best, and I have the CD here, and it's just fantastic. The lettering, the logo is raised, and the artwork, and
you've got the
booklet
logo, haven't you? There, it's nice.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. I'm looking at it right now. It's
a
awesome.
bit like the 80s, you know. They used to do all this denim covers, you know, and embossed logos. It's really cool.
Well, my position is if you want people to buy music physically, which I think they should, and my preference is CD always, I mean, give them something to want to buy it for, and you get cool packaging and a cool logo or a nice booklet or maybe a poster or something in there. I mean, that's going to inspire people to want to get it instead of just clicking on a stream. I think, you know, having that connection with music is so important. I love reading through every lyric and liner note and holding it, looking at it. So I think that's great you do that.
Yeah, they got an album cover that's not just some flat, you know, computer-generated thing, although there are some great ones. But when you've got something that somebody actually painted over the period of like 2 months, and then the logo's been embossed on there, a lot of work's gone in to create that album cover. I mean, the vinyl's the same. That's embossed as well. I think maybe the cassette is as well. So, no, I mean, you know, people... A lot of young people these days, they don't realize the quality of what goes into some of the artwork. You know, if you just stream things offline, or just take one song off the album, you know, you're missing the whole sort of industry that developed and brought that album to the market. So I think it is important to keep a physical product alive for music. I think it's important, both things. You know, you can download and you can buy. So actually, you have the best of both worlds. You just have to
absolutely
take the best of both worlds, not just one. That's the secret, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't let you go without picking up on something else you just said. You said this is coming out on cassette as well?
Yeah, I think it's out on cassette. Our last one was on cassette. I'm not 100% sure, but our last album was on cassette, and I think this one may be as well. But just check it out on our Facebook site or our website.
8-track, only a matter of time, right, Biff?
I used to love 8-track. We used to have I've told you the story before. We used to have an old American car back in the day in 77, 78, because there were these old Cadillacs and Oldsmobile town cars and Lincoln Continentals were quite cheap in England. We used to import them in. They got like billions of miles on there. We used to buy them because you could fit 6 people in there and guitars in the boot. And, we used to have great fun with that. And it was brilliant back in the day. You know, we wrote songs about it, and it was great, you know.
Great stuff, man. Well, listen, thank you so much for the time. Be well. Hopefully we'll see you here in the U.S. sometime in the near future. And everybody check out the new Saxon record, Carpe Diem. Again, it is available everywhere on Friday. Good to talk to you, man. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, thanks very much, man. See you later. Good talking to you.
You too. Bye-bye. There he goes, everybody. Biff Byford of Saxon checking in. A little bit of new Saxon as we go into our break. All right, good stuff with Biff Byford. Always great to visit with him. That guy is a rock and roll survivor, man. All right, good stuff with Biff Byford. Always great to visit with him. That guy is a rock and roll survivor, man. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. He's been at it since the late 70s, and here he is, 42, 43 years into his career. And it's interesting when you think about Saxon because, he talked about it. Metallica used to open for them, and early on with Priest and, bills with Maiden and clubs. Like, they all came up at that same time. Motorhead, all these bands. Def Leppard, part of that whole early new wave of British heavy metal scene. And some of them attained, obviously, great success. Some of them are still incredibly successful. Others have fallen by the wayside. Others didn't get anywhere, like a Tigers of Pantang or a Budgie or a Diamond Head. Yeah, sure, they have their fans, but you know what I mean? They never really made a mark. And then you've got Saxon that kind of occupies more of a middle ground, certainly not Iron Maiden, certainly not Judas Priest or Def Leppard, but certainly, way more well-known than a Budgie or a Diamond Head. And, but never got to that level where they became a household name, really still to this day, among metal fans, among hardcore metal fans, absolutely. everybody knows and loves Saxon, but it's just interesting how that works, whether it's luck, breaks, consistency, quality, whatever it may be. You look back at these movements and these eras in music, and there's always one group that comes out, 2 or 3 bands that came out that are just massive and maintain that. And then there's the others that occupy more of a middle ground, never really get fully over the hump. And then there's others that were very influential, like when you look at Budgie or Diamond Head, bands like that, Metallica covered their music. We've talked about that before, and actually did them a huge favor by doing so. And by doing so, gave them more revenue than they probably made in their entire career. So those bands certainly make a mark and an influence, but don't have the commercial follow through. But Saxon kind of always sits in that middle zone. They never got over that hump to the next level, but they always maintained and, for the most part, consistently made some real good records, including their recent records, which have been real good. A new one, as we just talked about, coming out on Friday.